Now welcome to another lightning response video. This time we got a question from the Cloud Creation who asked, "Hey Thor, always enjoy the content. How come you haven't covered anything in quite some time that has to do with the first half of your name, that being Marvel? Marvel has been in a pretty long down slope, but I've been really enjoying the return of the Daredevil show, and I think it's a bit of a shame that you haven't talked about it. Have you been watching it? I would like to hear your thoughts on the show." Okay, so first of all, I have been watching Daredevil Born Again. My wife and I, we did a review of the first two episodes on my other channel, but we haven't covered the whole thing, mainly because we've been more focused on talking about Andor and re-reviewing the first season, because we're both super excited for season two. The most excited I've been for anything Star Wars probably since the coming of episode 8, when I thought, of course, it's going to be a great follow-up to The Force Awakens. But anyway, I have enjoyed Daredevil Born Again. It's been pretty solid overall. I don't know that it's been anything amazing, but it's been really good and very similar to the old Netflix series, which is great and nice to see because I thought that was pretty excellent. And we will probably do a series overview on the other channel. I do cover some Marvel things over there from time to time with her. But either way, I will say that I've been kind of surprised that, as far as I've seen anyway, I haven't exactly kept super close tabs on it, but I've been surprised that the viewership doesn't seem to be there for Born Again, that it's not cracking the top 10 in the Nielsen ratings. I kind of expected this to do rather well, maybe really, really well, to be a pretty big hit for Disney Plus, given the popularity of that original Netflix series. But I don't know, maybe it is just a sign of the times, a sign that there's been a lot of Marvel or a lot of MCU over the past 17 years now, 17 years straight too. There aren't too many significant gaps between pieces of content. It's just been one Marvel thing after another, after another, after another, and at some point, most everyone, save the most devoted MCU fan, they just not necessarily get tired of it or want it to stop or stop watching altogether, but they just lose that excitement for it. It's hard to maintain that level of excitement all the time when something is just constantly coming out. It's just not as big of a deal anymore or as cool when you get so much of something, I think, unless it is exceptional, which of course it hasn't been. And I think a big part of the reason why they're bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to play Doctor Doom is they know he is or was the most popular and beloved character in the history of the MCU, or played the most beloved character, and he himself, Robert Downey, is pretty beloved too. They know he is going to put butts in seats, that Avengers Doomsday is going to be huge in large part, if not almost primarily, because of his return. And if he wasn't coming back, sure, there would still be some excitement for it, probably quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but not quite on the same level as him coming back brings attention to that film. Though at the same time, you'll also have those who are going to do the opposite. They're going to roll their eyes and see it as nothing more than trying to capitalize off nostalgia. That Disney and Marvel at this point, they realize things are indeed on the downward trend, and they don't know how to fix it with anything new. And instead they go back to the old that worked before. And no, Robert Downey Jr. is not the only one returning for this movie. Literally the first major piece of promotional material they put out there for the movie was just telling you all the characters that are returning. And honestly, I just personally feel a little burnt out when it comes to the MCU and want new and different, not more old. And I'm someone who loves comic books, who has read them, mainly Marvel as well as Dark Horse, Star Wars back in the day. I have read them on and off since the early 90s, and I think it is awesome, and it's pretty incredible that comic books or comic book characters and movies have gone totally mainstream and taken over pop culture. And I'm not just talking Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, all the big well-known ones, but characters that once upon a time the average person had never heard of, like Iron Man, for example. Go back before 2008 and ask the average person on the street, have you ever heard of Iron Man? And you're probably going to get a blank look. And so yes, I think what the MCU has done is incredible. I've said it before, it is one of the greatest feats in the history of not just film, but entertainment on the whole. But now, after, again, 17 years, I do think it's getting a bit stale, and they don't know how to freshen it up. So they have gone back to the old, they've gone back to what worked before. Even Daredevil, as good as it is what? Going back to what worked on Netflix years ago. And though, yes, bringing Robert Downey Jr. back brings or generates a lot of excitement, I don't know that the future can be sustained indefinitely off of just nostalgia. At some point, it runs out of gas. At some point, you've got to change things up. You've got to do something truly new and different, which is not easy to do when the old is so beloved. And Star Wars, I think, faces a very similar challenge. They've faced that problem for pretty much as long as Disney has owned it, of how do you make something new that still kind of feels like the old? Where is the line between freshening it up and respecting the old, and doing something that isn't enough like the old, and maybe even disrespecting it? But anyway, yeah, when it comes to Marvel or the MCU, keeping in mind again my love of comics and that I have been here since the very beginning of the MCU. I was there 17 years ago at opening night showings of Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, Captain America, Avengers, and so on. And now I generally catch new Marvel movies the Monday after it releases in the afternoon when the theater is virtually empty, because I just don't care about being first. And it wasn't all that long ago that I didn't bother going to a theater at all for the first time for a Marvel movie, that being for Ant-Man Quantumania. It's the first one, and still the only one, not counting Black Widow, that I didn't go and see at all in the theater. And overall, I guess the best way for me to put it here is I still love it. I still love the MCU, but I'm not in love with it anymore. I personally just don't have that same level of excitement for it that I once did, where I am looking forward to every movie coming out and making sure to go on opening night and keeping track of all the latest news and rumors and watching the trailers 100 times before they do release. I'm simply not that fan of the MCU anymore, though I still do like and again appreciate what it has done. Another problem is, as you pointed out in your comment, the quality of the content has definitely slipped, which is probably a part of the reason, maybe a big part of the reason my interest has also slipped, or my excitement just isn't quite the same anymore. To me, it feels like most of the movies and shows we've been getting over the last few years are just average at best, nothing to get excited about in the first place. Feels like the majority of stuff since Endgame has been, again, pretty average, with a few diamonds in the rough, a few things that I either really enjoyed or thought were really good, as well as a few things that have been really, really bad. And all this is kind of the main reason I really haven't talked about Marvel much at all on this channel, that it's just been average, that there hasn't been a ton of good to talk about. Besides, yeah, sure, Daredevil has been pretty good. I could certainly have talked about it. But the majority of stuff has either been, again, average or bad. And I just don't want to make videos that crap on Marvel for the sake of crapping on it or trying to profit off of its demise by making all sorts of negative videos with clickbait titles and thumbnails and doing all that. I'd prefer not having the image or reputation of being a hate channel any more than I have already gotten it. It's not a huge deal to me as long as I think and as long as the majority of the people who watch me feel like I am just being honest and being fair. But no, I would rather not be seen as a hate channel, and if I just crank out videos talking about how bad Marvel is, that's probably going to be the image I get. Or one I already have. I mean, the other day I got a comment asking why I haven't made a video yet about the whole Snow White thing. And I was like, well, why would I? I'm not a Snow White channel. I'm not a Snow White fan. I don't know that I've ever seen any iteration of Snow White in my entire life, nor do I plan on ever seeing the latest one, controversy or no. So other than it sort of being Star Wars adjacent because of Disney and the fact that, yeah, I will talk about the industry on the whole sometimes, I didn't really see a need to cover it just to say what thousands upon thousands of other channels and videos have already said about it. And probably they've said it better than I would or could because, no, I haven't really paid a ton of attention to it. I really just don't care about it. Now, I'm not saying I have never made a video out of the blue about something non-Star Wars that got my attention and that I thought maybe I have something interesting to say about, or that I never will again. I'm all for making non-Star Wars content from time to time, though I will always, I think, primarily be Star Wars. I've even had someone suggest making a Legend of Zelda video game tier list, and I thought to myself, that would be, that'd be tons of fun, because I have played almost every Zelda game since the first one came out in 1986. And yes, I played it and loved it way back in 1986. Anyway, we'll save that for another time, and my point here is that no, there hasn't been a lot of good to say about Marvel recently, and I haven't felt like talking about how bad it's been. And sure, I'll make so-called negative videos about Star Wars because, well, I try to cover it all when it comes to that. I talk the good and the bad and just call it as I see it when it comes to Star Wars. But I'm not just going to talk about Marvel every time they screw up, though again, in this case, when it comes to Daredevil Born Again, I have mainly positive things to say about it. And if you're curious about those, I do have the one video on the other channel, and I'll probably, again, make an overview on it as well. Furthermore, if you're really curious and you really want to know, yes, I have heard the recent stuff about the Fantastic Four, the stuff about how the actor who is playing Johnny Storm wanted to update the character for modern audiences, or whatever he said exactly, that he didn't think a womanizer would be appropriate nowadays, and how the actress who plays Sue said it's going to be about gender politics with her character. And part of me just shakes my head at that and wonders what they are thinking. Why would they say something like that and potentially lose some of their audience? And then I keep in mind that actors really like to feel like what they do is super important, as anyone does, don't get me wrong. If you're going to have millions of people potentially watching you, yeah, you're probably going to want it to mean something. I don't have a problem with that. And sure, sometimes it is important or meaningful. Sometimes you can make something profound or play a truly important character that has a message that is, again, important. Though other times you're making a Fantastic Four movie and you're playing Sue Storm, who, yeah, I guess is an important character, but let's be real, the majority of people who want to see this movie just want to see it for what it is, not for the message you're trying to send. And yeah, it can be important to her, it can be important to others, but again, I don't think it's going to be important to everybody. A lot of people just want to see the Fantastic Four because they like the Fantastic Four. And when it comes to stuff like this and trying not to get maybe upset about it, I try to remember what Fiona Shaw, the actress who played Marva in Andor, said, or how she said that how Tony Gilroy had created a show that was a scurrilous take on the Trumpian world, which were comments that came out before the first season of the show, and it got some people upset and talking and thinking this was going to be terrible because of what she had said, that it was going to be just this anti-Trump thing, which you can enjoy or not enjoy, whatever. And then the show actually came out, and, well, I don't know that I saw what she was talking about in the series. I guess if you really want to look, and if you really hate Trump, you can find it. But it ended up being a fantastic series, the best thing Star Wars in a good long while, and I don't think anybody cares what she said about it anymore. But long story short here, going back to the question, I don't have the same excitement or passion for the MCU that I once did, and I don't want to make videos about things that I don't really care that much about. Now, I'm not saying I hate the MCU or that I don't think Daredevil has been pretty good overall, but I just haven't been feeling it when it comes to the MCU, and if I'm not that into it, if I don't feel like I can put a good amount of my own passion or care into a video, why should I ask you to watch that video? Well, I think that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below and either tell me what you think of the MCU these days, or tell me what I think of the MCU these days, or tell me what you think about Daredevil. I haven't seen too many people talking about it, for better or worse. Or you can always ask a question for a future lightning response video, or suggest a tier list. Like I said, I love the idea of doing a Zelda one at some point. Anyway, whatever you choose to do, leave those comments, questions, or suggestions below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And so, until next time, thanks for watching.